The best advice I have ever been given. It's gotten easier because I just ignore it. So someone asked, do I write my own scripts or do I just get in front of the camera? So yeah, hosting. But I'm actually not sorry at all. What's up, everybody? I'm Sydnee Goodman. Thanks so much for being here. Coming back to my channel. Do subscribe if you don't already. So basically what we're gonna do is I asked Instagram, YouTube, community section, Snapchat for your questions about my career and hosting. And this first set of videos is going to be about hosting. What is hosting? What has been my experience in hosting? And then there'll be another set of videos that will be more geared towards like, how did I get into this? What did my resume look like? How did I get my foot in the door? Answering those questions will be another set of videos. So let's just dive into these. Thanks everybody for asking a question. Thanks everybody who asked a question. I appreciate it. Words. You would know that my job is to speak in front of the camera professionally because I can't speak today. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many good questions. Let's just jump into it. So somebody asked, in terms of social media exposure, would you say there are any good ways to brand yourself? The importance of having a personal brand goes beyond just if you are want to be a host, content creator, and influencer, right? I'm not gonna totally get into that, but for hosting and for my job, it's very helpful for me to have a personal brand and to have a direction and kind of know what I'm going for in everything I do. I think that mine developed pretty naturally because yes, I have had moments of being very intentional about it and thinking about like, what parts of myself do I want to share with the internet? I learned this the hard way. Sharing your whole self on the internet isn't always fun because while it might be fun for a second, you probably will hit a point where you realize that you are giving too much of yourself to the public, if that makes sense. So I think having a personal brand is great because I think that it can allow you to set those boundaries and not only think about what you want to share on the internet, it can help brands that want to work with you know if it's a good fit, or brands that you want to work with know if you're a good fit. It can help guide you in career decisions. The best advice I have ever been given, it was given to me by Janina Gavankar. Basically, it's having a mission statement. Have a mission statement for yourself. You know how companies have mission statements? Well, it's very helpful if as a person in your career, you have a mission statement. And honestly, you probably have a personal mission statement, you just maybe haven't sat there and put it into words. As like people walking around in society and just like living life, we all have core beliefs and core values that are guiding all of our decisions and just all of that, right? And so for your career, I found it extremely helpful to have one for that. So my personal mission statement, I put it really well on my website and I put a lot of like thought into making it succinct and nice, so I will read it to you. My website says, Sydnee sets out to share her story and experience and that of others to show the nuance and multi-hyphenate nature of people and what can be experienced when we move past the stereotypes and boxes we often put people into. She hopes to inspire folks to be open to the unexpected and to move out of the internalized limits that so often keep people from realizing their full potential. I get that that's succinct, but also I feel like it's devoid. It's kind of, you know, like, ugh. But basically what that means to me is that everything, every decision, every opportunity that I say yes to, I need it to align with that. And what that is this idea that by sharing my story and the stories of others, there's a purpose to that. And it's in the hopes that it breaks down people's thoughts and kind of like closed-mindedness about what people can achieve, and inspire people to break those own thoughts about themselves. And, you know, I think that people are multi-hyphenate. I think that you can game, you can love sports, you can play sports, you can love health and fitness and exercise, you can love fashion, you can hate all of those things and also really like, I don't know, cooking. Like, just that people shouldn't live in these boxes that society and all of us have internalized for other people, right? And so every decision that I make, oh my gosh, I don't know how long the video has been, but in real life, it's been almost 8 minutes and I'm on the first question. It's just so important to have something guiding your decisions. And maybe it's, you know, it can always be in flux. You can always be changing. I think we're always evolving. as people. And so it makes sense if your mission statement evolves. But this was something that it was so helpful for me to have that. And I would hope that my personal brand shows that. And I think that your personal brand comes about through decisions and opportunities and brands that you decide to work with, as well as how you conduct yourself on the internet. So next question, do you have to play games you have no interest at all just to stay current and informed? Yes and no. The great thing is that I have kind of my lanes that I gravitate towards very naturally, and that by working in the games industry and kind of the nature of my job, it has caused me to play games that I wouldn't have thought that I would have been interested in. I think a great example is Gamescom 2018. I had an interview with one of the devs who worked on Grease, which is now one of my all-time favorite games, but it is a platformer on the Nintendo Switch. It's on Steam now also. That is not a game that I typically would have played, but by doing the research and having that interview and learning more about the game, I was like, whoa, I should probably play this. Like, I'm very invested in this and I want to learn more. And so then I played it and I enjoyed it and it was great. So it definitely expands your horizons. I think there are cases where I've played games that I'm not personally interested in. Luckily, because I work at IGN, there's so many people that have so many different expertise of games that a lot of times I'm not necessarily asked to play games that I just like hate or that I just don't jive with. But sometimes, you know, that's the case. I think a lesson that I learned early on is you can't be everything to everyone. As a host and at IGN, I'm kind of in the minority at IGN in terms of the video games that I like to play and being very multiplayer person. Like, I don't play very many single player games and I don't finish them very often just because I want to go play Call of Duty. That's why. I want to go play and shoot things and win. And that's my experience and that's my love of gaming. And I'm open to, again, doing more of that or to doing things outside of that and learning. And I love those experiences. But when I first started at IGN, it was like all of a sudden, I remember becoming extremely insecure about like, well, am I playing enough video games? Like, am I a gamer? And I'm gonna get to that in a second. But like, am I a gamer? Like, do I know enough? Am I playing enough different kind of video games? And it's like, yes, it would be great if I had an encyclopedia type knowledge about every video game that has ever come out. But the reality is I don't. And I would literally kill myself by trying to make myself play all of these 100+ hour games. Like, that's just not realistic. And so I think accepting where you are in your knowledge, and if I don't know, if you want to become like the Final Fantasy person, then yeah, maybe that means that you should probably play that backlog of games and learn Final Fantasy, but you don't need to be the Final Fantasy person, be the Dark Souls person, be the best Call of Duty player, be the Fortnite person. You don't have to do all of that. If you want to, cool, go do it, but you don't have to. I can't remember the original question. Oh, there we go. My job on the Daily Fix, and because I write it and host it and I'm in the meetings and you're talking about the news, plus when I also interview developers and I do all of my own research for those interviews, you do end up, even if maybe you haven't played every game, you play a little bit of the game, you get the gist, you've done all this research, you watch all these interviews, so I feel like I do know a lot about a lot of things, even though maybe I'm not specialized in all of these things. Let's see, what made you want to become a host? Was there any doubt from friends or family? I have always been interested in being a host, and there was so much doubt from friends and family and myself that I just pretended that I didn't want to do it for a very long time. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and then for a while it just seemed too hard, so I just pretended that I didn't want to anymore and just kind of like forgot, if that makes sense, because I was like, oh, that's not realistic, I'm not gonna be able to do that. And then I realized, why not try to do something that I like really want to do? Like, what's the worst that can happen? And luckily I'm in an age that if I did try to go after this and I fell flat on my face, I don't have like kids or any family members that are dependent on my income. I can figure it out if it didn't work out, sort of a thing. But luckily it did work out. My parents, I think that they're extremely supportive, and ultimately they just want to see me happy and being able to afford to pay rent and buy groceries, etc., etc. And so I think that their hesitation to encourage me to go into a field like this, that not everybody who tries to be a host or tries to go after their dreams always gets there. I think that, it's like a hard truth, and it feels weird to say that because I think that it is a combination of, making your own luck, actual luck, having the skills and the passion and the work ethic. So I wouldn't say that they were doubters. I think that they were just scared that I would disappoint myself. But now everybody's chilling and my parents are super proud of me, which is really cool. So Alex probably has been my biggest champion to go after this and be like, no, you can do this. You're a bad bitch. Who's been the most influential in my passion for hosting? I think Kat Deely, who was the host of So You Think You Can Dance, has a big influence because I think that she is just very personable and like the way she hosts is pretty casual. I like Heidi Klum because again, she kind of brings that personable style to hosting are two that immediately come to mind. But I used to watch like a ton of So You Think You Can Dance, and I just remember even as a kid being like, Kat Deely, like I really like how she conducts herself. And she does a great job balancing kind of being personable and really connecting with the audience, with the judges, with contestants, but still being able to move the show along, which I think is something that people don't realize, that hosting takes like a lot of skill. And I think that there is somewhat of an overlap between being a content creator on YouTube and, you know, making your own videos or being like an influencer and being a host. However, I think hosting has a lot of skills that are learned on the job, or maybe I never went to like a hosting school or anything like that, but those do exist and I'm sure they probably teach you those skills as well. But there's a lot of skills that you learn when you're hosting that I had to learn on the job that I didn't necessarily have when I worked at BuzzFeed, for example, or went by just streaming or doing my own YouTube videos. And I guess somebody's probably gonna ask, so I probably should list them out now. But I feel like for hosting, there's a few different skills. One, it's a lot of multitasking. And so I almost feel like me streaming for so long prior to hosting, I started streaming in 2014. And when you're streaming, you know, you're playing your game, you're watching chat, you're making sure that the production is going on and everything's working and there's no tech issues. And when you're hosting, it's kind of the same thing. If you have a guest, you're talking to the guest, you're checking teleprompter, sometimes there's somebody in your ear who's kind of telling you how much time you have left in the interview, or if we need to move on, or is there a break coming up, you need to toss to break. So while you're listening to your guest, and you have to be engaged and actively listening so that you can continue and have like a really great conversation, you're also trying to think about how much time do we have left? Did I hit all of the points that we were supposed to hit? I need to make sure that I mention the sponsor when we toss to break. Like there's a lot of things that you're juggling. So yeah, hosting. How do you keep your femininity in a very masculine and sometimes toxic space? So I think it goes back to that other question that I answered in terms of just like being really secure in who you are and what makes you you. And that's part of the reason why I think having some sort of a mission statement and maybe even having clarity on like your personal core values and that kind of stuff is really important, because it can be very easy to kind of be swayed when you have so many other people's opinions about yourself coming at you. That's a huge reason why I really don't read the comments very often. Well, if I do decide to read comments, it's usually from a standpoint of like I need to learn something from the comments, whether it's like, okay, I need to take away whether or not they like this video format, you know, maybe we try something different on the fix. Let's see like what the audience feedback is on that. Because I think it can be very easy to read comments, both positive and negative, and have that kind of like consciously or subconsciously change the way that you operate. When I started this work, I was not super confident in myself, and it's still something that I'm working on. I know maybe it might seem like it's like I have my shit together. You know, I don't. I work really hard and do sometimes, but I also don't sometimes. And great example, a couple weeks ago, like I was just on a tear mentally and just having a bad time, and I saw my therapist 3 times that week. I don't know, okay. But I really do think that seeing a therapist has made it a lot easier for me, and has been really important for me kind of like finding myself and realizing what's important to me, who I am, and not losing that, because it can be a very toxic space, unfortunately. And I don't think that's specific to gaming. I think in general, there's toxicity, unfortunately, in every corner of community on the internet. And so I think, you know, when I first started at IGN, I think a great example would be how I dressed. I looked back, I was so self-conscious about how to dress on camera, because a lot of people that I would see on IGN's content or other video game stuff on the internet, it was a lot of like jeans and like a t-shirt, and they all looked great and it was great. And I was like, oh no, that's not what I don't dress like that normally. That's not really how I dress. If I wear jeans and a t-shirt, I'm wearing mom jeans and a tucked in like vintage tee, which I get how that sounds. I'm so sorry. But that's what I gravitate towards, and that's what I wear. And even I specifically remember there was one daily fix that I did, and I was wearing a blue button-down shirt, and I styled it in a way that it sat off shoulder. And a bunch of people in the comments called me a slut. They said that my shirt was messed up. Like, I just got made fun of so much for this outfit. And like, I don't know, maybe some people just hated the outfit. That's fine. The comments affected me. And I was really self-conscious about wearing certain things on camera. And for some reason, people thought that if I wasn't just in a t-shirt that I was a slut. And there were actually like there was a Reset Era thread that was like 16 pages long about what I wore. And that sucks. That's such a double standard. Like, they don't do that for men. And that's just so frustrating. And I hate to say that it's gotten easier because I just ignore it. And I just am a lot more secure in what I'm wearing. And I want to wear things that make me feel good on camera. So if it's confusing to everybody else, sorry. But I'm actually not sorry at all. Like, go pick up a magazine or something, or watch a runway show. I don't know. I wish that I had better advice, because I feel like there's so many women who ask me questions, which thank you. Also, thank you to the men who ask me questions too. But I get really excited because I feel like there's not very many women who follow me. And I know that I wouldn't be here if I didn't have women to look at in the industry who I saw do it before me. And so the fact that women have asked me that and are looking for my opinion on those things, it means a lot. And it means a lot that I can give that back. Anyways, so I basically just rely on intrinsic guidance. To go back to the outfit example, there are things that I look back and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have. Like, I wore this like very deep cut shirt and or dress, and I look at it, it's like, it's a really cute dress, and it's like, but maybe I shouldn't have worn that. That was a little risque. Because I do think I rebelled after I saw that thread and the comments that were like calling me a slut, where I was like, well, you think I'm a slut now? Check it out. But I did that subconsciously. So I hope that helps you. I think just focusing on what you know about yourself and what you like about yourself and what you want to show and what makes you the most confident. And if you are a more masculine woman and that makes you most confident, dude, go for it. And if you're a more feminine woman and that makes you most confident to show up that way, dude, go for it. I know it's so much easier said than done. But what I've found, even in the like advocating for yourself thing, is start with small things. You don't have to like do everything all at once. It will build. So someone asked, do I write my own scripts or do I just get in front of the camera? Depends on the gig. At IGN, I write my own scripts, but sometimes I also just get in front of the camera. There's cases where, for E3, for example, or Summer of Dating this last year, there's writers who write the transitions and kind of the intros, and so I'll just read those. But for the Daily Fix every day, I write that in the Snap Fix. So I also write my own script. I write like 2 scripts every day that I read for the camera. But I think that's a great time to kind of talk about my situation. So hosting is confusing. Basically, me working at IGN, I'm a full-time employee who's also a host, but that's not usually the case. Like, I've done tons of freelance work where it's like I'm just a host and I am coming in, they have already been working on the production, they have the pre-production done, and I'm going in and they're telling me kind of what to do and say. It's like, cool, great, I'm hosting here. But then there's other cases where I act more as like a writer producer, and I do that. And so I think if you're trying to get into hosting, I've personally found it the most fulfilling, but also very helpful to come from a background of like a production heavy background and knowing, I did video strategy. I think that is so helpful to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it's helpful in making the content and the end product. And I think that, being able to write your own scripts, even if you don't, is helpful so that you know what sounds good and how to say things. But maybe there's some hosts that don't write their own scripts and they also are probably very good at that. I'm sure that exists. But I have found that writing my own scripts has helped me develop that voice and the confidence in that voice. So yeah, hosting. Okay, so I got this really awesome question from somebody on Instagram, and basically they gave their experience, and unfortunately it is such a common experience, at least from what I can tell and from my own experience, of women working in video games. I'm tired of people treating me like I'm not a real gamer since I only recently started and ignoring my opinions because I might not know as much about games, history of games, and I'm not great technically. Shooters are fun, but aiming is tough. If this applies, how have you dealt with people that assume you don't know what you're talking about or are disrespectful solely based on the fact they believe you aren't qualified, assumptions based on gender, looks, etc.? What got you through, or what skills did you have to practice in order to advocate for yourself? I want to be a badass gaming self-loving bitch, but I feel like the community can work against me. Preach, girl. Or how did you continue to believe, fight, advocate for yourself, and carve out a piece to call your own? And I think this is a great question for anyone who has worked in any industry, and or at least creative industries. And I say that because I haven't talked to very many people or women who work in I don't know what you call that. Not creative industries? I don't know. I guess creativity is everywhere. Basically, one of my really great friends, Kate, we have a podcast together. Shut up, keep going. She works in film, and there's a lot of overlap in how people see other people. I think the first part of that question, in terms of people maybe not thinking that I'm a gamer or feeling like I need to prove to them that I am a gamer, that is such a natural feeling. And I'd say in the last maybe 6 months, I have only started to really do things that I feel like I'm seeing a tangible difference because I'm doing them. But I think it's a lot of how you show up. And, you know, unfortunately, people have this weird standard where for women, you have to be really good at video games to be considered a gamer, which I don't think is true. I think that if you enjoy video games, you're a gamer. Similar to if you enjoy painting, you're an artist. You know, you don't have to be like the best painter to be considered an artist. And I think it's the same thing with video games. If you enjoy it and you consider yourself a gamer, then you are a gamer. Unfortunately, people on Twitter will tell you otherwise. And a lot of this job and just being in public and putting your opinions out there is dealing with blowback of people not agreeing with you or calling you out or saying you're not enough or you can't have this opinion. The great thing about opinions is that you literally cannot be wrong because it is your opinion. Wow. At least, you know, if it's a subjective thing, or wait, if it's an objective, I don't know, I get those confused. It makes me really sad, again, how common this is, and this idea that it's like, you're not a gamer because because of my perceived ideas about you. But the thing is, that has more to do with the person who is projecting that onto you than it has to do with you. I hate to say this, but you probably will never be enough for somebody. Like, you're not gonna change their mind. There's nothing that you can do to change their mind. They will have to change their own mind. And I hope that that releases you from feeling like you need to, again, going back to what I said, play all these games, do all these things, like go become the best first-person shooter player, because you don't. And I know that that doesn't always make it easier. A great example is like a couple weeks ago, I literally cried after a meeting to my husband because I felt like I wasn't getting the respect that I deserved with the background that I had. And if you didn't know, I'm gonna brag about myself for a little bit because I've worked really hard and I am deciding to brag about myself right now, but quick run off of my resume. And again, I'm gonna make another video talking more in depth about my resume and how I got these experiences and turn them into other jobs, etc. But, you know, I was a consultant while I was still in college on the Destiny Red Bull relationship and that partnership and execution. I worked at BuzzFeed and not only was a creative producer on like 50% of the videos that hit YouTube, but I also ran their Instagram account that had over, I think, like 3 million followers, literally making memes for that account and posted, like I was the only person running that account. I led their YouTube strategy for more traditionally male verticals, including video games, mystery, sports, fitness, and health, oddly satisfying. I ran the BuzzFeed video, what is it called? BuzzFeed video YouTube channel and strategy as well. I produced videos in terms of running sound, camera op, editing, being in the videos. And then obviously I'm at IGN where I do all my own research, I write my scripts, and I host. So I have, I forgot to even talk about how I worked at Red Bull and did video strategy and execution for action sports and esports. And I've pitched series, it's just like, I have a lot of experience and it's awesome. And some people don't freaking care and they still don't think that I have enough experience to have an opinion in the room. And so all of that to say, what I have learned is that you need to conduct yourself like you deserve to be in that room, because if you are in that room, you deserve to be there. And two, well, I don't know, was that on 1 or 2? I'm not sure. I'm also like really out of breath. I think that being intentional about how you show up, and people can sense that. And as I have focused on that, I've had a coworker and friend reach out and be like, Sydnee, like, I don't know like what has changed in your attitude, but I appreciate that you're like being more opinionated and letting that be heard and showing up. And the thing is, when I do have opinions, yes, it's not always perfect. I have been in meetings where I feel like a man in the room has to kind of co-sign my opinion before it's taken seriously, and that frickin' sucks. But the thing is, that doesn't mean that my opinion was bad necessarily, and sometimes I do have bad ideas. I accept that. So yeah, I think it's this practice of realizing that your confidence is gonna come from within and gonna come from, you know, you believing that you deserve to be there, you believing that you are enough of a gamer, you know, you believing all these things about yourself, but also having the experience to back that up. Like maybe if you have zero experience, be more open to learning from other people. I'm still very open to learning from other people. I feel like I've scratched the surface of knowledge that I can obtain from the people around me because I'm luckily so surrounded by very talented, smart individuals. So that's what I would say. I know that it's an everyday practice, really. And then I think my second thing is it's been really helpful to have a therapist and to have somebody to talk to and just have this objective third party be like, that's not your opinion, that's somebody's opinion of you, and that has nothing to do with you. I hope that helped. Thank you so much for watching. I will continue to be answering like career questions in the next video, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's what I say, right? Bye-bye.